G'day everyone, welcome to another video by myself, Andrew DFT. And of course, welcome to part 2 of the How To Fortnite Pistol tutorial. Now since part 1 released, I have had a few people reach out and say, why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing something cooler and bigger like a tactical shotgun or so? Well, I'll let you know now. The one thing you need to learn when you're trying to start off and you're wanting to create things is to learn the basics and learn the essentials. Of course, I could do a tutorial on the tactical shotgun and completely miss over this guy, but you need to learn how to do the fundamentals on something smaller before you do it on a bigger one. If you can master a small prop, you can nail a big one. Otherwise, jumping in to do a big one, it's probably going to not look as good. You've wasted time, you've wasted effort, you've wasted money. So this is a far more logical and more productive way to go about it. If you want to argue that some more, then be my guest, but this is an art form. You've got to learn the basics and understand how to nail them to move forward. But moving on, let's continue with the build for those of you who are interested in it. Of course, we've got this ready to go, and we're going to start carving in, building up all the individual details within it to really flesh it out and give it the final design we're after. Of course, once you've nailed that, we can then go ahead and paint it up. I won't be doing a painting tutorial in this because it's very standard. All I did for this was use a basic grey undercoat and then applied some few washes of silver and black to give it the nice kind of grey silvery tone that is, of course, what the Fortnite pistol looks like, and in general the Colt. So yeah, let's jump in and continue the build. Alright, so we left off with this image here. So what we're going to do now is going to go ahead and build up the top part to make it round over. Right now it's sitting at the 90-degree block form, which we want to get rid of. So to do this, what we're going to do is go ahead and transfer in this horizontal line marked here. Of course, you can cut the template in half to get that to transfer on, which is pretty easy and pretty self-explanatory. Once we have it lined in, we're going to start to add the top line, which will be another horizontal line going across the top. Now we're going to add this maybe about 1/4 of an inch into the foam, so that way it's not too deep, but it is deep enough so that way we do have a nice top which is going to be flat, and then everything should just curve around it. Once you've drawn that in, you can go ahead and add another horizontal line in between the one we drew before on the flat side and the top part. It should sit halfway in the middle right there. What we're going to do is we're going to bevel off this section using the craft blade, a nice sharp one I might add, and go between the top line we added and of course that one there. Now we're going to need to add another line horizontally going through the foam. If we left it like this, it's too much of an acute bevel. We want it to be a nice rounded edge when we sand it. So what we're going to do is add a horizontal line in the middle of that beveled edge we just sanded. As you can see, it's placed right in there, and we're going to now do another edge going down from the one we've just placed to the bottom original horizontal line we just originally laid in. I know there's a lot of horizontal lines being played in, but this is going to give us a far nicer curve when we of course sand it out. So take your time and make sure it gets in there, and as you can see, the difference is quite substantial, and you can see where the individual lines met, giving us the nice rounded edge. Of course, when you take your nice high grit sandpaper, it comes out looking something like that. Now the next section is of course the middle part, where the bullet would be chambered and it would eject from, and of course where it slides. To do this, we're going to use the template and mark it on, and then of course carry it around. You're then going to excavate out this interior section ever so slightly, just giving a nice little indent latch like you can see there. It doesn't have to be too deep, just enough to signify that this is another layer, and you're going to follow the same beveling techniques as we just did, but on the interior side, and then sand it out so it looks nice and clean. Next up, we're going to add the nice little fuller or groove marks to the back of the pistol. And this part is going to require a lot of attention and detail, so you're going to go ahead with a craft blade and cut out all these individual pieces from the paper template. Once you've got them all cut out, you can lay it onto the foam and carefully transfer in with a pen, doing it lightly, not too hard. Be sure to go back and clean up the line work if it is a bit iffy, but once you've got it laid in nicely, you can grab your nice sharp as craft blade, and I can't stress more that it needs to be sharp, and you're going to very slowly bevel out these sections. You can either bevel it out or you can cut them out entirely and then go back with the pen and kind of smooth them in to make them a bit more prominent. Then we can jump down to the handle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bevel off the handle so it's not a very sharp rectangular object. We're going to actually go ahead and add the bevel line, and then don't worry about a depth line. You can just go ahead and free guide it, maybe about halfway through whatever your current depth is, but just simply take off those corners to of course round it off and give it a nice little sand. You don't want to make this completely rounded out like we did on the top. You kind of want it to have the nice hard edge if possible. Then you can grab the template and cut these little circles out. These are going to be little bolts that of course would hold the wood and the metal together. So to signify that, we're simply going to draw it in, and then we're going to go ahead and lay in that nice little bolt mark and then you can simply use the beveling technique to craft out and identify those lines and give them a bit of depth, and that should be enough. Or you can put an actual bolt into position here if you wish. It's up to you. Now the next parts we're going to do is all the individual detail. I'm not going to cover it, I'm just going to show you what I did. So you can cut out the template, of course, for the bottom magazine section and cut that out of styrofoam. And then just glue it straight into the bottom however you want. And of course, all the other remaining details you're simply going to grab from the template and mimic what you can see on screen. These are all little tiny pieces that you can carve yourself. You don't need a tutorial for it. It's kind of hard to film. So as long as you can copy what you can see on screen with that 2D and this 3D image, it should be pretty good. And that's exactly where you're going to glue them all into position there on screen. Now if you did the barrel like I did, what we can do is grab the hot point of the hot glue gun and very carefully melt a hole into it, and that should give us the nice bullet exit. So that's it, all done and dusted. Now hopefully you are very happy with the final design. I know I didn't really go over all these individual segments on top, but they are very simple to make, and trying to actually film me carving them on camera, my fingers kept on getting in the way of the view, so it was very hard to actually get through and actually show you that. So as long as I can show you the befores and the afters and what they look like on screen, just do your best to match it up and then piece it on. If it's too big or too small, just make the adjustments. They're very small pieces, so going back and redoing them if you need to isn't really that much of an issue. So now that we've got this out of the way and of course you guys now understand it, I can move on to bigger projects to make you guys more happy. So I will jump in and do some more tutorials. I will figure out a way to get these at you easier, because that's the primary focus. I need to teach you guys how to make them simple through step-by-step instructions. A lot of these ones I've done for the first time, and me learning myself is obviously key to be able to portray the tutorial to you. So until that one, consider subscribing if you're new, like the video if you enjoyed it, and then I will catch you later.